My girlfriend said, "Sit at the end of the table. You ruin the vibe when you're too close." She spent the whole dinner taking selfies with her coworker like I wasn't even there. I finished my food, paid for only my plate, and left quietly. When she walked into the apartment later and noticed what I'd left right under her favorite mirror, she didn't take a single step forward. I'm Carter, 31, and I learned the hard way that being treated like an accessory in your own relationship is a choice you're making, not something that just happens to you. This is about the dinner where I stopped making that choice. I'd been with Melissa for 2 years. She worked in marketing, was always on social media, always curating her image. At first, I thought it was part of her job. The constant photos, the careful staging, the obsession with lighting and angles. I figured that's just how people in her industry operated. But over time, it became clear that I wasn't part of the image she wanted to project. When we went out, she'd take photos of herself with friends, but make sure I wasn't in frame. When we traveled, her Instagram would make it look like a solo trip. When people asked about her relationship status online, she'd dodge the question or ignore it entirely. "It's just about keeping professional boundaries," she'd say when I brought it up. "My followers don't need to know about my personal life." I believed her for longer than I should have. Told myself I was being mature by not making it an issue. Told myself social media didn't matter. But social media wasn't really the problem. The problem was that she'd started treating me the same way in real life that she treated me online, like I was an inconvenience to be minimized. 3 weeks ago, she invited me to dinner with some of her coworkers. I'd met a few of them before, but this was supposedly a bigger group celebration for a successful campaign launch. She'd been talking about it for days, excited about the restaurant, the people who'd be there, the opportunity to network. The morning of the dinner, she spent 2 hours getting ready. Hair, makeup, outfit changes. She looked incredible. I told her so. "Thanks. I need to make an impression tonight." "It's just your coworkers, right?" "Yes, but impressions matter. You're coming, but try not to be too. Too what? Too quiet. Too serious. Just try to blend in and let me shine, okay?" I should have canceled right then. Should have recognized that asking your partner to diminish themselves so you can shine is toxic as hell. But I just nodded and got ready. We arrived at the restaurant at 7:30. It was one of those trendy places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind that looks better in photos than it actually is in person. About 12 people from her office were already there, seated at a long table. Melissa immediately lit up, hugging people, laughing loudly, being the center of attention. I followed behind, saying hello to the few people I recognized. Then she turned to me. "Carter, why don't you sit at the end of the table? You ruin the vibe when you're too close." She said it casually, like she was suggesting I try the fish instead of the chicken, like it was a reasonable request. A few people heard. I saw a couple of them exchange glances. "Excuse me. The end is fine. You'll be more comfortable there anyway." I looked at the table. The end seat was isolated, separated from the main group by a physical gap where the table narrowed. It was the seat you'd put someone you were obligated to invite, but didn't actually want there. "I'll sit there," I said quietly. She was already turning away, moving toward the middle of the table where a guy I didn't recognize was saving her a seat. He stood up to hug her, and she practically glowed. I walked to the end, sat down, and watched. The dinner was exactly what you'd expect. Melissa held court, telling stories, laughing at that too loud laugh she did when she wanted attention. The guy next to her, turned out his name was Trevor, also in marketing, matched her energy perfectly. They took selfies together. Multiple selfies. Different angles, different filters, constant phone checking to see how they looked. At one point, she actually got up and moved to Trevor's side of the table so they could get a better shot with the restaurant's neon sign in the background. She didn't glance in my direction once during any of this. I ate my food. Answered politely when the person next to me tried to make conversation. Watched the woman I'd been with for 2 years act like I didn't exist. Around 9 p.m., people started talking about splitting the check. Melissa, from the middle of the table, called down to me. "Carter, you got this, right? Put it on your card, and we'll settle up later." We never settled up later. That was her pattern. She'd volunteer me to pay for group stuff, promise to pay me back, then conveniently forget about it until I either let it go or had an awkward conversation where she'd accuse me of being petty about money. Not tonight. When the server came around with the check, I quietly told him I'd be paying separately, just for my plate and drinks. He nodded, probably used to dealing with complicated group dynamics. Melissa didn't notice. She was too busy laughing at something Trevor said, taking another selfie, checking her phone. I paid my portion, left a tip, and stood up. Walked right past the table without saying goodbye. Out the door, into the parking lot, drove home. My phone started buzzing before I even got to the car. Text from Melissa, "Where are you going?" I didn't respond. Got home around 9:45. Our apartment was empty and quiet. I stood there for a minute, thinking about 2 years of being treated like an inconvenience. 2 years of being excluded from photos, asked to sit at the end of tables, told I ruined vibes by existing too close to her. I went to the bedroom and started packing. Not everything, just enough for a few days. Clothes, toiletries, laptop. Moved my stuff into my car. Then I did something I'd been thinking about for weeks. Melissa had this mirror she loved, right by the front door. Huge thing, antique frame, perfect lighting. She'd stop there every time she left the apartment to check herself, take selfies, adjust her outfit. It was her spot. I took out my phone and printed a photo I'd saved from tonight. Got it from her Instagram story, posted just an hour ago. It was her and Trevor, faces pressed together, both laughing at the camera. Caption, "Best team ever, party popper sparkles." I printed it at the drugstore down the street. Got it framed in a cheap frame that matched her aesthetic. Then I placed it directly under her mirror with a sticky note. "Since I ruined the vibe, I figured you'd prefer this reflection. I'm done being invisible. Good luck with Trevor. Carter." I took one last look around the apartment, grabbed my things, and left. Update 1. I stayed at my brother's place that night. Turned off my phone around 11 p.m. because the calls and texts from Melissa wouldn't stop. When I turned it back on the next morning, I had 47 missed calls and over 60 text messages. The messages started angry. "You embarrassed me. Everyone is asking where you went. You made me look bad." Then confused. "I don't understand what I did wrong. Why did you leave? What is this about?" Then manipulative. "I thought you loved me. You're being childish. If you cared about us, you'd come home and talk." Finally panicked. "I saw what you left. That's not fair. Trevor is just a friend. You're overreacting. Please call me." I didn't call. I texted once. "I'm done being the person you're embarrassed to have around. Good luck with everything." She called immediately. I declined. She called again. Declined again. Eventually, I blocked her number. My brother asked what happened. I told him the whole story. The dinner, the seating arrangement, the selfies, everything leading up to that moment. "Man, you should have left her months ago." I know. I kept thinking it would get better. It never gets better with people like that. They just get more comfortable treating you like shit. He was right. The dinner wasn't an isolated incident. It was just the most blatant example of a pattern that had been building for 2 years. Update 2. 3 days later, Melissa showed up at my brother's place. I don't know how she figured out I was there, but she was waiting in the parking lot when I got back from work. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "Carter, please." "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how I was making you feel. You told me to sit at the end of the table because I ruined the vibe. You spent the entire dinner treating me like I didn't exist. You've spent 2 years making me feel invisible. You realized exactly how you were making me feel. You just didn't care. I do care. I was just caught up in the moment. Work stuff, trying to impress people. It wasn't about you. That's the problem. Nothing is ever about me. Not your photos, not your celebrations, not your life. I'm just supposed to exist in the background and pay for things when you need me to. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you posted a photo of us together? When's the last time you introduced me as your boyfriend instead of just Carter? When's the last time you wanted me close instead of asking me to move away?" She didn't have answers. We stood there in the parking lot while she cried, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, just emptiness where the relationship used to be. "What about the apartment?" she finally asked. "Lease is in both our names through the end of next month. After that, you can renew it or move out. I don't care. I'm not coming back. Where will you go? That's not your concern anymore." She tried a few more angles. Our history, our plans, what people would think. But I'd already heard these arguments in my head 100 times over the past few days. None of them changed anything. Final update. It's been 2 months. I found a new place, smaller but entirely mine. Melissa renewed the apartment lease on her own, or maybe Trevor is helping with rent now. I don't know, and I don't care. A mutual friend told me Melissa tried to paint herself as the victim in the breakup. Said I abandoned her without explanation, that I was jealous of her success, that I couldn't handle her being social and popular. Some people believed her. Most people who actually knew us both saw through it. The photo I left under her mirror apparently destroyed her. She posted a long Instagram story about fake people and being betrayed by someone you trusted and learning who your real friends are. The irony was completely lost on her. Trevor, interestingly, stopped appearing in her social media about 3 weeks after I left. Someone mentioned they'd had a falling out at work. I didn't ask for details. Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. I'm doing better. Therapy helped me understand how I'd let someone gradually erode my sense of worth. How I'd accepted being marginalized because it seemed easier than conflict. How I'd confused patience with self-abandonment. The night I left that photo under her mirror wasn't revenge. It was clarity. She'd wanted me to be invisible, so I became invisible by leaving entirely. She'd wanted a reflection that didn't include me ruining her vibe. I gave her exactly what she asked for. The fact that she didn't take a single step forward when she saw it tells me she knew exactly what she'd been doing all along. She'd just never expected me to stop accepting it. You can only ask someone to make themselves smaller for so long before they realize they don't have to stay in the space you've designated for them. The end of the table wasn't where I belonged. Neither was a relationship where my presence was treated as a problem to be managed. So I left. Quietly, calmly, permanently. And I've never once regretted walking away from someone who thought I ruined the vibe by existing. Edit. People keep asking about the photo choice. It wasn't about making her look bad with Trevor specifically. It was about showing her what she valued, the image, the selfies, the performance, and making her confront that she'd built all of it while asking me to disappear. The photo was just evidence of her priorities. Edit. For those saying I should have confronted her earlier, you're right. But sometimes you don't realize you're being slowly erased until there's one moment that makes it impossible to ignore. That dinner was my moment. Everyone's moment is different.